You are listening to Salaamedia live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salaamedia, keeping you company this Ramadan.
ومرحبا بكم. Welcome back to the Iftar Drive. It is now time for the spiritual hour with Moulana Yunus Kawanga. Assalamu alaikum, Moulana.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah, Moulana, MashaAllah. Thank you for coming back. You left us hanging yesterday.
I think that was the point.
And those that were listening yesterday, but we didn't finish the surah, you know.
Yeah.
And mashallah, Moulana, that's what our asatiza used to do. Used to keep you wanting to keep you looking forward to the following day's lesson, right?
Yeah, anticipation.
Mashallah. Okay, for those of us that missed out yesterday's broadcast, Moulana Yunus Kawanga was going through the tafsir of Suratul Mu'min, actually, and we barely went through a few ayah, and it was time to break fast. And so today, inshallah, we'll pick up from where we left. I think the last ayah that Moulana gave us tafsir was الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Is that where we ended?
Actually, the one before that.
The one.
الَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ.
Is that where we ended? Actually,
yes.
I remember because we said, look, let's try and at least finish that particular ayah. So Moulana, inshallah, today we can begin. You want to start from the following ayah, or
I think we should do the one on Zakat again, because we didn't actually go into it. We just read it and gave like a simple translation of it.
okay?
So we just and we raised one point that it's a very important aspect in terms of right now being Ramadan time,
Right.
and most people, they do actually plan to discharge their zakat at this time of the month. Of the year actually.
Moulana, I just wanted to find out about that. You know, some people are under the impression that the only time to pay your zakat is in Ramadan. Is that correct? No, because when you calculate your zakat, it's 1 year that you have the nisab.
Right.
So from the time you have the nisab, say for example, if it's in January, that's when you got the nisab and over and above and all the masaid,
Right.
and a year later would be January again.
Right, then it means that's only then will be the time for you to discharge it. So you shouldn't wait for Ramadan.
Okay. So why are people waiting for Ramadan?
I think because it's easier for them to calculate it with Ramadan, and also let's have ظَنُّ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ خَيْرًا, right? That they just we're seeking, anticipating better rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that time of the year, inshallah.
Okay. So they've just been proper business people.
Alhamdulillah.
They've been
as long as the faraid is done at the end of the day, as long as it is discharged and used for whatever case it may be, inshallah. Especially, right now, because we are facing this situation in KZN, I think most people's zakat actually came in handy at this time of the year.
Okay.
So normally every year it's about feeding schemes, like feeding people who are in need, etc. Helping those who are in need to be able to host iftars every day, etc. In this area, I think there's more need for it.
Okay.
Well, the past 2 years have been quite hectic for everyone in terms of the COVID lockdowns, etc. Many people losing their jobs, businesses closing, and people who used to give zakat now became recipients of zakat. So I could say like this past 2 years have been really hectic and changed that whole scale and balance of the zakah recipients and those giving.
And I think people should not look at zakat as some sort of a wealth tax. Nowadays everybody's talking about, should we tax the rich more? Because you're talking about the COVID pandemic. The COVID pandemic, the rich people became richer, Moulana.
Right. So that's capitalism, right?
Yeah.
The richer carry on becoming richer.
Yeah, they just became richer.
They stagnant and poorer. But you see, one amazing thing that when you look at zakat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned that it is a means of expiation of besides sins, but it cleans your wealth.
It cleanses your wealth.
It cleanses your wealth. So that's the word zakat. The zakat means to cleanse, right? So now it cleanses your wealth. So many people look at it as if going back to the point we had last week on sadaqah, that you feel like the more you give, you actually depreciating from your wealth. But zakah is actually there to cleanse that wealth.
Okay.
You know,
could you elaborate? Why would wealth need cleansing, Moulana? Assuming you're earning halal.
I mean, obviously you're earning halal,
but it still needs cleansing.
It still needs
and
cleansing.
It's farad.
It needs, obviously, we're talking about the point whereby it needs the barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of the day. And sometimes it does happen that, okay, maybe you, whatever wealth it may be, you received it in a halal manner. However, some points in that whole transaction were not accordingly.
Okay.
Like, for example, how we have the two sunan after majority of the salahs, right? Except for Fajr and your Asr. The sunan that come after the salah normally is to cleanse that salah that you perform, because you know that you didn't have proper khushu or khudu. So you're just like supplementing it to be at the level where inshallah it will be accepted by Allah.
Okay.
So that's the point. It's just about supplementing whatever the deed that you made for the sake of Allah. For example, after Ramadan, we have the 6 days of Shawwal.
Okay.
So many times people look at it like, I have to fast again. But no, it's not about that. It's about trying to fast in those days, hoping that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make accept for whatever mishaps that took place in Ramadan for those 6 days.
Any deficiencies to sort of
exactly. Like, I mean, what is the reward of those 6 days is that fasting those 6 days is like fasting the whole year.
Okay.
So, I mean, who wouldn't want that?
And I think also, I think you know, it's almost like a cautionary. If Allah Ta'ala put us in this world to earn our living, right, and we earn our living from the time we are born. I mean, from the time we are of age until we retire.
No.
And it's our responsibility to earn for our families. But while we are earning, there could be those like spiritual diseases here and there that might impact us. So, or maybe we get attached to our wealth. So it's also almost cautionary that yes, it's halal, it's fine, it's actually a sport. It's people that love business.
Right.
They take business as a sport, and it's a high performance activity, and they get a lot of joy out of it because you win some, you lose some, and everything.
Right.
It's a game, but in that game of earning your halal rosi, certain things might fall through the cracks, and certain spiritual diseases might creep in, and giving that 2.5%, as you say, Moulana, is a purification of your wealth.
It is. It's purification. Also, I could say the main lesson I learned from Zakat is about humility.
Right.
Because when you're looking at a person who's earning, for example, like 100,000 in a year, he just has to give what would be the Zakat? That's what is it, 25,000,
which is minuscule.
So if you look at it, it's like, okay, it's not really much, but at the same time, it's like sometimes people are like in that mode of like Qarun, right? Like, no, I did this on my own. I did this, it's my money. Why should I give it? But now, when you remember that again, it's an amr, it's a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you become submissive. You're like, okay, I submit. I'm a Muslim. I have to submit. I have to do it for it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered me to do so. So it's not just cleansing, but it's all about bringing it to the point of Islam. I mean, all these points, all these acts that we do in our deen, all the ibadat, it's the main aspect of it is what? لِتَعْبُدُونَ, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we don't comply with that, then we are fighting, going against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's system.
But socially, Moulana, I know today we're doing a little bit more explanation, but socially, what is the position, and what is the position of zakat socially? We spoke about spiritually what it does for you, the earner of that wealth, the owner of that wealth, and taking away the takabbur, taking away your qualities of the tyrant qualities and greed.
Yeah.
But socially, to the recipient, to society as a whole, what does zakat do for the society?
Right. So initially, look in the most books of fiqh, they say that zakat was supposed to help bridge that gap between the high earners, what you call it, people in the I just forgot how we normally put it in the terms of capitalism, where you have the people in the higher stages and the
bourgeoisie.
The bourgeoisie.
I'm just taking a guess. Is it really
like,
the bourgeoisie?
No, bourgeoisie are mainly like a middle class type. So when you look at
bourgeoisie, according to Karl Marx, is supposed to be like the rich
the
guys.
affluent ones. then the French had
and then he had the bourgeoisie, he had the petty bourgeoisie,
yeah,
and then he had the working class.
Then the working
Yeah.
class. Then
I was
you
in
have
high school a
those
long
ones-
time ago.
Then you have those ones who are like the lower class. So
Yeah,
it was
the
supposed to be
serf, yeah.
So it's supposed to be a bridge between the gap between the lower class and the higher class, right? Obviously, then now we have an outgrowing number of the middle class people or working class, and those ones also, most of them are actually discharging zakat. So in society, I think the most important point is that, excuse me,
No problem.
is to try and manage and do out with that whole classification of classes. And most importantly, not to have a overwhelming number of people who will be recipients of zakat. Because I remember there's a time in Baghdad, in the Abbasid era of Baghdad, that they say that they couldn't find in the whole town a person to receive zakat.
That actually happened.
That happened. That the men will go for months traveling, trying to look for someone to give discharges zakat to, but they couldn't find it because everyone now they had bridged that gap between the high class and the low class. So that was what zakat did. But no, that can only happen if zakat is being discharged accordingly, with the tenants and whatever is the prerequisites, etc. So now, I mean, we have an overwhelming number of people who are recipients of zakat, and we have only a few people who are there to give the zakat. Now, there's a big imbalance.
I think very importantly, Moulana, before as we continue on this discussion of zakat, and there are those people, like you say, who are recipients of zakat, and those people for whom zakat it becomes further they must discharge the zakat.
Right.
So the people who are the recipients of zakat, I know you just mentioned it like low class, but like in terms of the technical definition, who can accept zakat and who cannot accept zakat?
Right. So when you look at the Quran, gives us 8 types of recipients of zakat. So among them, you have the people who are the masakin, right? Obviously, that's always important. Masakin, people who are unable. But you see now, our translation of miskin shouldn't just be a person who's impoverished, but should be a person who's like impoverished and cannot do anything about it. Like there's no means for.
So there's helplessness in a way.
Helplessness. So the fuqara and the masakin. Those are the main 2 people who have to receive. Then after that, you have a situation of people who are a person, let's say he's a wayfarer, right? And it happens that he lost his luggage, whatever. I mean, in Joburg it happens a lot, right? Something happens then in a park station and he's going around asking if I can get like some money to get his bus ticket so he can get home.
That is so heartbreaking.
It is. And actually, you meet a lot of them. But I mean, we don't want to go into the point of are they honest or not.
Yeah, when I start seeing many of those people, then I start getting worried because I'm thinking, okay, like what are the chances? How many people today decided that they were going to get robbed?
One thing is we don't want to be too naive, but at the same time, we don't want to be a person who always goes around pointing fingers and this one he looks a bit sus. That one's a bit sus.
No, it's tragic.
But I think the human being is a very amazing species because you have that gut feeling that tells you this guy is being honest. Unless you're just too much of a generous person and you just want to get it right. Anyway.
This is so important because you can't just give zakat. First of all, you can't give zakat to a non-Muslim, right? And you can't give zakat. You can't give zakat of yourself, and you can't give zakat to somebody who is not zakatable.
Exactly.
So it's something that you have to actually, the means test must be quite rigorous.
It has to. I mean, the zakat people who deal with the zakat, all the organizations, panel, they're doing a lot of good work.
Right.
Because if you look at the procedures that they take in order to classify or go through the whole classification of if the person is zakatable or not, then it's a lot of work and it means a lot of precision because you can't make a mistake. Remember now, if the precision is not done well, then you discharge zakat to the person who's not zakatable. That means the person who gave out the zakat
is not discharged.
It's not discharged. And it's on his head now. Right? So that's another issue. So these things have to be taken into consideration when doing so.
Actually, you remind me of a hadith where one of the Sahaba asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, Ya Rasulullah, I was in the masjid, I gave my zakah, I gave it, it was in the dark, is my zakat now discharged? And Nabi sallallahu then, had it back and forth, and that person said that, Ya Rasulullah, I was in the masjid, somebody gave me zakat in my hand, but I'm not zakatable. So we understand from those interactions that you have to make tahqiq. You have to do, I remember the one time I was just walking in Lens on Eid Day. I was looking for something and the shops were closed. And I said, I'm going to take a walk. I was walking and I left my car at home. And there was a man driving with his car with his wife, and he stopped on the side of the road and told me, hey, listen, I'm out here giving zakat. Can I give you zakat? Number one, I thought that was rude. Secondly, how do you do that? You need to discern who is a zakatable person, isn't it? There has to be some means test investigation, and yeah.
I see. Another point is that people need to be accustomed to contacting the Darul Iftars, because
it's a very important act of our piece of our ibadah.
You need to know that the Masail pertaining zakat very important. You shouldn't just wait for the next one. Oh, let me just go back to Mufti Sab and ask him. Like, it should be a thing that we're all constantly asking, and there are many possibilities of scenarios changing in a person's life, etc. Like I said, a person who last year was able to give zakat, this year is unable to give, and he actually became a recipient of zakat. Right. So now that has to be looked into every single year. So things change, the conditions and situations change.
Right. No, Moulana, thank you for that clarification, and I'm sorry I kept you on that one. I know today we said we want to move a bit quicker, but we still have time. So inshallah, haluma jarra.
All right. So then now the next one we look at وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ. Very important. Subhanallah. Like, if you look at one is that the hadith that speak about the signs of Qiyamah, is that people will not look after their chastity, right? Zina will be rife, and illicit relationships, etc. So much so that people start giving them names and giving them sort of a green light, saying, it's okay as long as we're not, how can you say yes as long as we're not doing it, like the deed, etc. It's okay, but it's not okay, because from the beginning, now look at the ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about zina. It doesn't say that do not commit zina. He says that la taqrabu zina. So la taqrabu zina means that don't even give way for things that push you towards that situation. Don't give way. Don't let yourself be a victim, not really a victim, but don't let yourself be accustomed to those situations whereby it is easy to commit zina. So this is a very big issue, because if you ask a person, a youngster who's ready to get married, what type of a wife you want, I will tell you that she should be baligh and other things, and obviously we'll tell you about her not being chaste. He wants her to be chaste, but the question should be also in the person's head, that am I chaste? As much as I'm looking for this perfect fruit, but am I of that level, of the caliber that I will be able to take care of and have the same characters or even better?
Absolutely.
So these are important things, and we need to look at how this situation has been taken seriously by Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like that one youngster who said that, allow me to commit zina. And Nabi sallallahu asked him that, he didn't scold at him. He just asked him that, how would you feel if someone did that with your mother or your sister or any female family member of yours? So this has to come back in our minds. Like, how would you feel if the same thing is done to someone else? Someone who's in your close proximity. Right. And it also deals back down into how we're taking care of our Iman. Yes, we are. Humans are weak, etc. But it's not an excuse that we should go forth and be like, many a time we were like doing this. People will start pushing in towards sin, and they will say, yeah, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ghafurur Rahim. But that only has to come when the person is about to lose hope in the mercy of Allah. Then you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ghafurur Rahim. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ghafurur Rahim, he brings it every time he says, La taqnatu min rahmatillah. Do not lose hope. Or do not dismay in the hope of Allah. But before the sin, it has to be that Inna Allah shadidul iqab. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very severe when it comes to punishment, because this keeps you away from going into that sin. Then after that sin has been done by mistake, I'll just say this, by mistake, that's when you think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ghafur Rahim.
Al-Iman bayna al-khawf wa al-raja.
100%. Because if it's not between khawf and raja, then we'll just take chances.
Now, just for those that obviously didn't understand what that meant, like Iman is between khawf, that is fear of the punishment of Allah, and hope for the mercy of Allah.
100%.
And if you've joined us, Moulana Yunus Kawanga is talking Surah Mu'min, and he's talking about the qualities of Iman, and amongst them are those who are protective of their furuj, basically their private parts, basically their chastity.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives an exception. It says, إِلَّا عَلَىٰ أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ, that except for obviously their wives and their spouses, and that which we don't have that nowadays. We don't have slaves, you know. And this is another topic people would like to get happy about.
وَمَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ. Moulana, where are they?
You know, so like, you know, I remember.
But from modern day, yes, go ahead.
Is it a couple of years ago, the situation in Libya?
Yes, African people were enslaved by the Arabs.
Subhanallah, like it a very ugly picture for Islam at large, because now you have a person who does look when you're walking down the street and people like it is a Muslim, you know, and you have a person where people like no, he can't be a Muslim. There's many questions. So it was a very hard situation and also to try and explain to the world at large about what's happening there. I mean, we have to deal with it accordingly. I mean, this was a human rights type of a crime that was being perpetrated. Doesn't matter who's committing the crime. Remember, again, going back to the whole point of adl, justice. Justice is not about the color or the creed of the person who's committing the crime against it. It should be whatever is supposed to be done has to be done. Right, that every person who deserves a right has to be given his right, true right.
Right.
So it shouldn't be about who is it, where they from, type of question. It's supposed to be, but he's human.
But the thing about slavery, Moulana, I mean, there are different nations that are, you know, involved in slavery. Lots of different nations, and for different reasons as well. You know, and at different times of the. I mean, if you look at South Africa itself, South Africa also had slaves. You know, in the Cape Colony. If you look at all those majestic buildings in Cape Town, and they were built by slaves.
Yeah.
If you look at the infrastructure of, they were built by slaves.
Also, now one of the segment my curriculum that we do in Islamic history for my grade 10 and 11 classes is that we're looking at Islam in Africa. And in grade 11 now, we're actually looking at the advent of Muslims in Southern Africa, South Africa. And we looked at how Muslims came into the Cape, etc. in 1652 from when the Dutch East Indian Company, right? So you see that the majority of the people actually came in were not slaves, by the way, were just prisoners of war.
Okay.
Because they were preaching against the Dutch company,
right?
In Malaysia, in the Indonesian, southeastern.
They were made slaves.
So they were made slaves just due to the situation of them being arrested. But even though they were arrested, when they were brought into the lands of Southern Africa, they were still held high esteem, like Sheikh Yusuf, rahimahumullah, whereby they had a community, right? The one I remember Sheikh Yusuf actually, when he was brought here, he was brought along with 40 other people who amongst them were his wives, I think it was 4 wives, his children, and others were his slaves, his servants. And he wasn't at the position of being servitude to the Dutch. He was just, you know, living his life, doing his dance, etc. Right? And but later on, then when the slaves started coming in, that's when the whole scenario changed now. Right. Then I think about a few years ago there was a mass grave which was found in the Cape, somewhere in the cave, which is said to be from around that time, when the initial advent of the Muslims was in the Cape.
So I mean, you can go to Cape Town today, where you know they'll show you the slave markets where people were bought and sold.
Yeah, I mean, but by the way, remember Cape Town was like pit stop.
Yes.
The Dutch East Indian Company. So when it came there, they had some trades with other traders, etc. So amongst the commodity that time was slaves.
Right.
So you want chili, you want spice, you want something, then you have a slave. Okay, let's change. Let's barter. That's a factory. According to my daughter, like a bargain trade.
Yeah, it is
right.
Bartering.
Right. Situation.
But I mean, it's definitely one of the darkest histories in the history of humanity.
100%.
The whole idea of taking another human being and making them your personal slave for maybe because the family or the village was not strong enough to resist your family's army,
right?
For example, or for whatever other reasons. I mean, it was. And Islam has always told us that we should, faqu raqaba, if you make a certain type of guna and a certain type of sin, was to sort of like get out of it, was to release a slave. And even just for the sake of your darajat in akhirah, people were encouraged to release. So Islam and Muslims are not the bad people. Yeah, it just
it's a system that existed before,
Yeah.
and when Islam came in, rather, it found people were engrossed in that system. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a subhanallah amazing way, like you mentioned that ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about Quraqaba, that you have to free a slave. Now that was to teach people that you can't hold yourself close to this lifestyle anymore. One of the greatest deeds of Sayyidina Abu Bakr was, what was it? It was to buy those people who were Muslims, but at the same time they were slaves, then free them.
Yes.
And for those things, he was noted, and remember, he was promised a lot of rewards by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So much so that we remember when we mentioned the names of the people who are Al-Ashara al-Mubashara, those who are promised Jannah, Sayyidina Abu Bakr is the first person.
Right.
For all the deeds that he did for the sake of Islam. I mean, amongst the people he freed, bought and freed, was Sayyidina Bilal.
Yes.
Right? So he used to say, Sayyidina Umar used to say that Abu Bakr was Sayyiduna, was our leader, but then Bilal was our leader because he was freed, and at the same time, how close also he was to Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and as the Muazzin, etc. So it is a very beautiful. It's like you said, a very dark part of history. Like we look at the 300 years of slavery in America and other.
No, people are still trying to get over it.
You see,
the impacts and the effect of slavery. We're still feeling it.
But let's remember one thing: slavery wasn't just a physical thing; it was a mental thing.
Right.
So whatever has to do with psychology, remember, it's everlasting. Look at South Africa, for example. South Africa went through almost the same situation, right, in terms of the regime, the apartheid regime. Now, I am of an opinion that we can't expect things to just change within 27 years, because the whole system was built to make a certain class of people feel powerless. And now, to do that now, the whole thing has to go through a rehabilitation type of a situation.
Absolutely. Well, today was a very fascinating discussion. We talked about everything. From zakat to slavery, and alhamdulillah, it's almost time for iftar, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity to collect your thoughts, so that we can go for a break and come back with the dua, inshallah. Are we done with Surah Al-Mu'min? Are we going to continue with the surah, or are we going to maybe perhaps, because
I'm looking at like there's still other points, but
we can continue. I think, Moulana, if you are comfortable, we can continue with this, inshallah, on Monday.
There's other surahs that we'd love to look into, inshallah.
All right. As long as we don't fall too behind from the Taraweeh, and as long as we don't go too ahead.
Because the 1.5 today, they're actually busy with the second half of 19.
Okay.
So, inshallah, on Monday will be in the 20s already.
Okay.
Inshallah.
All right. I mean, 4 minutes to 6 Central African time. We're going to take a break. Moulana will be back with a dua just before iftar. Assalamu alaikum.
Salaamedia, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
There's no smell that takes me back to the comfort of my childhood than the smell of black seed oil being applied by my nani. Now I'm using tib black seed in my own home to soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like tib black seed. You can find tib black seed at all leading pharmacies, or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
Zakat has the power to end extreme poverty. If the whole world gave Zakat, it could end extreme poverty many times over. Islamic Relief has been distributing Zakat for over 38 years. Our Zakat policy complies with strict Sharia guidelines. It's endorsed by qualified scholars, and it only goes to eligible rights holders. So, harness the power of your Zakat with Islamic Relief.
It's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
At Sentio, our Invest for Good philosophy is based on a real desire to use our investment skills for the benefit of broader society. We are committed to supporting our community by investing responsibly, giving charitably, and developing talent that will transform the investment industry. As an ethically based asset manager, we are focused on delivering superior risk-adjusted returns for our clients, regardless of market conditions. Visit us at www.sentio-capital.com for more information on our Sharia investment products and start saving with us today. Sentio Capital Management. Invest for good. Sentio Capital Management is an authorized financial services provider.
Salaamedia, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين. اللهم لك الحمد كما أنت هو أهله. اللهم لك الحمد كما أنت هو أهله. فلك الحمد ولك الشكر كل يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم إنا نسألك ما سأل منه نبيك وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك مما استعاذ منه نبيك وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ونبينا محمد صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأهوال والآفات وتقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات وترفعنا بها عندك على الدرجات وتبلغنا بها أقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات. آمين. استجب لنا دعانا يا مجيب الدعوات والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك التواب الرحيم. فضل سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Salaamedia, this Ramadan.
The Iftar has been brought to you by Multi Furniture and Appliances Hyper of Port Shepstone by Gardi.